Hello and welcome to CIO News. I'm Afreen Khan, your host for the broadcast and head of operations at CIO News. With me today, I have Mr. Shailendra Sahasrabudhe, who is the country manager for India, UAE, and Southeast Asia at Cymulate. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Pleasure speaking to you.
Same here, sir. So, Mr. Sahasrabudhe, we know that Cymulate is in the cybersecurity space, but if you can probably just throw some light on the offerings and the product, the overall portfolio.
Okay, so Cymulate is basically a global leader in offensive security. Cymulate started with breach attack simulation platform and then added multiple layers onto offensive security posture like attack surface management, continuous automated red teaming. So the objective of offensive security is actually validating your existing investments, existing security controls, whether they are optimally configured or not, and whether they have been able to sustain and withstand today's attacks or not. So basically, the objective of Cymulate platform is to give the customers the view how they are ready with the kind of the latest threats by optimally configuring their existing security controls and getting a better ROI from what they already invested.
Great, great. So I think it is more about protecting the investments from any kind of attacks and also probably protecting the data, protecting anything which
Getting
is
better
related,
ROI from what you
getting better
already
ROI.
invested.
Oh, okay, okay. So we know for a fact that there is security is of course the top priority across any IT roadmap across industries. So in a continuous demand, there's a huge surge. So how is Simulate keeping up with the hike in demand?
Correct. With the hike in demand, there is also hike in the attacks and the threats, right? So if you look any statistics, India's in last 1 year has almost 4 million plus cyber attacks. Uh, so when the customers are investing heavily into cyber security, they need to also ensure that all those investments are worth configuration. They are implemented, configured the most optimal way. So and the traditional validation mechanisms that the customers used to use are frankly outdated. Customers used to have pen testing or red teaming or vulnerability assessment. First of all, these old technologies or verification method today don't feel any customer secure. They are first of all lacking the depth and the width of the scope. The way the control needs to be validated, they are not available on demand. They can't scale. There is a lot of opaqueness between the data, and if there is a threat, one can't use this method. So when the threats are increasing, the investments are increasing, the customers needs to ensure that the investments are well configured, the tools that are configured the same way, the skill sets of the people that are managing these tools, they also need to be upgraded. So that's where Simulate also feels that offensive and defensive security will go hand in hand in future. And as the security investments keep increasing, there will always be a need to better validate the controls and efficacy of the controls that are being deployed.
Correct. And
And just to
yeah,
tell you,
sorry.
in last 2 years, our company has grown by almost 60% year over year. We have now more than 500 customers across 40 plus countries. So yes, we see a bright future.
And that's absolutely great. And when you actually say you use terms like red teaming, vulnerability assessment, I think until a few years ago, those were the kind of solutions that people used to go to kind of check their systems. But now, as you rightly said, they're not on demand. They're the opaqueness which is there, and an offensive and a defensive, that combination is something which is absolutely needed in security. Great point out there. And yes, the growth of your organization absolutely is, it is kind of an evidence to the overall demand in security on that front. So on that note, also what I wanted to understand is, how does Simulate as an organization ensures that the platform stays up to date with the latest threat intelligence and effectively stimulate real world attack scenarios? Because we know for a fact that attackers or cyber theft, they keep on coming up with new ways and means, and
Correct.
there's an improvisation almost every single day
Correct.
and across the world. So how does it the platform stay up to date?
So, first of all, the Cymulate threat library is a composition of live payloads, manipulated payloads, reverse engineered payloads, and scenarios. Uh, and we ourselves have our R&D based out of Israel. We get threat feeds from across the world. We already have a SLA with US cert and Israeli cert. Any advisory that they publish will be automatically within few hours will be added into our platform, and the customers can immediately validate are they exposed to that particular threat or not. So in fact, our database is updated almost every day for different attack vectors, because if you look, attack simulation platform covers multiple security controls, and each security control can be breached in a different way. There are new techniques, tactics that have been discovered. So every control needs to be updated to check efficacy checks for that. So just to make long answer short, update database is updated every day.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, it sounds like that because it's like a repository of the different types of attacks that have been
Exactly.
happening.
Correct.
And you're feeding the system with all those pieces of information, and it's like an immunity that you're building, a pre-built immunity just to fight.
I don't. Immunity is one way, but what we are trying to do is, by using all those tactic techniques, we want to make the cost of the attack exorbitant for the hacker, so that he moves to a different target. Because when he sees that for a company A or a customer A, already his controls are most optimally configured, then there is a cost of the attack. When he
True.
finds it that getting in or infiltrating job more and more difficult, he will give up and move to the different target.
Absolutely, yes. Because when we talk about ransomware, of course, that time, the bandwidth that an attacker would want to invest would be to get a higher amount. And when
Correct.
he knows that, there's not going to be a great ROI on that front, he might not want to go there.
Correct.
Yes. So, and just a follow up question or there, we know that you're heading the India, UAE, and Southeast Asia regions. So, in India, where does Cymulate stand in as a global channel marketing strategy?
Yeah, so channel is a very integral part of our in how we address the market. Uh, and channels, when I say channel, it's just not the reseller, but it also the managed security service providers. Uh, so, uh, if I dissect the two, a lot of channel partners have created services offering on us. So, channels basically take our product and take it to the customer, so that whatever tools, technologies that have sold, they can actually give a better support for those tools to the customer. And India is a big outsourcing country. Global customers are supported from India for their managed security services. So we have partnership with the world's leading Indian managed security services companies, where they use our platform and offer services to the global customers. Because if you look at the architecture of our platform is very easy to use. It requires very less resources. It's 100% accurate. There are no false positives. To start it just take a half an hour. So it actually fits into the strategy of MSSP that delivers services from a very low cost, uh, you know, location. And we are a cloud platform. There are no logistics involved. So MSSPs, global Indian MSSP is also a very integral part. So our India strategy is based on these two factors, to address local market with the local resellers, and also use India as a springboard to using these MSSPs to get entry into those global customers.
Yes, and on that note, I just kind of recollect. I just learned the other day that India, when you say that using India as a springboard to kind of get everywhere else, is because I learned that the 4 Ds of India, the demography, the democracy, the distribution, and the demand. Yes, of course, India is a market which kind of can be leveraged in that manner. So, we also know that in the BFSI sector, there probably the BFSI sector is the sector where more attacks happen. Almost 38% attacks, more attacks than any other average of any other industry. So, since most of your clients in India are banks and insurance companies, So, what according to you are the best measures to curb these attacks?
So first thing is, we got a entry into the market, and naturally the banks were the ones who adopted our technology with open mind, and we started getting one banks after the other banks, uh, and also then followed with insurance and other verticals. But to be frank with you, cyber threats are common for all. The attacks
Hmm.
are not happening against the vertical A versus vertical B. The attacks are happening against the cyber tools, and if the same tools are
Systems,
deployed
yes.
across the vertical, every industry is exposed to the same kind of threats that the banks are exposed. Uh, the only way you can curb the attack is by doing a continuous validation of the way your policies, processes, tools are being configured. How and that's the only way today organization can you know go to a journey where they reduce the risk, reduce the exposure, get to a baseline kind of thing, and ensure that those baselines are not breached, because finally everybody has to decide at what risk he can live with it. Correct? No one can have a zero risk in
Hmm.
cyber
Hmm.
world,
Hmm.
but at least reduce that base risk to a minimal level where, as an organization, every organization can be a going concern and live with that risk, and be known of what risk we are going to carry forward, and known to the management also. So the only way I see is, uh, if you look at the whole ecosystem, the way the cyber tools are deployed, there is OEM, there is this integrator, so multiple layers, outsourcing partners. In this kind of a varied architecture, we have a cloud, networks are getting complicated, data centers. We The customers need to validate every security control
Yes.
every day, not like once a quarter, once a 6 months. Only that kind of a reassurance can have a kind of a peace of mind to the customer that yes, my exposure is minimum, and that is the exposure I can live with.
Correct, because security is a journey. It's not, it's just done and dusted. It's not a one-time implementation. It's an ongoing process till the time the business is functioning. And you rightly mentioned that there are different points. There are different touch points: infrastructure, network, applications, websites, web-facing applications. So of course, there's a lot to do when it comes to security. So, on that note, what are Simulate's plans and developments going forward? And is there new functionality or enhancements in the pipeline?
So, as I told you, last 20 years, customers have done a journey with a defensive security. Started with antivirus, then firewall, and now
Hmm.
deception, proxy, all that. Offensive security is the journey that the customer started with breach attack simulation, and Simulate will be with them throughout this journey. Starting 2016, every few months we have added new layers into the platform of offensive security. We started with breach attack simulation, then we have attack surface management, then we have virtual red teaming, then we have attack based vulnerability management. Now we are coming out with two more modules, is called SciB. So what we want to foresee is that Simulate adds a kind of a platform where the customer starts his offensive security journey, and at every stage they will keep adding new layers into the stack of offensive security, and Simulate will be with them. And offensive security and defensive security will always coexist in as an ecosystem to make customer feel
Safer.
happy, safer.
Yes. And it's if I have to put it very plainly, it's like we've been playing on the back foot for most of the time, having antivirus, firewalls, web application firewalls, but now it's time to play on the front foot. That's probably, to put it plainly, if I'm not wrong.
I don't call it a front foot. I just, I want to call it kind of
A
a,
proactive approach.
it's more of a proactive approach. It's better to attack ourselves rather than waiting for someone else to attack and then react.
And react,
Correct.
yes.
Yeah.
Great, great. So thank you so much, Mr. Sahasrabudhe. I think that
Thank
was a
you.
that was actually a lot of insight that I have got to know. Because for me, still the understanding was always that, it's about still, testing your system and, putting up a firewall and, all sort of security solutions. But yes, offensive is also a
In
combination.
fact, going forward, I can say offensive security will be actually a baseline. How the new defensive technologies will be added, it is already happening here in India as well, where customers are using Cymulate platform to choose the new technologies that they would onboard.
Hmm.
Because traditionally the defensive technologies were purchased like doing a standard POC, but now they would like to buy those technologies, putting under a stress test of Cymulate,
Hmm.
ensuring which technology withstand that kind of attack, and only then buying that technology, because they can actually feel what technology will actually work in their network in real time when the attacks are happening. So it's not only changing the way people manage the cyber as a domain, but how they will onboard new technologies for the future. That itself is undergoing a change.
So it's like a litmus test for organizations before they kind of, implement any security solution. This is like a stress test or a litmus
Correct.
test. Great, great. Thank you so much for your input, sir. And it was really, really nice talking to you. Any last thoughts or best practices that you would like to share for our viewers?
Continuously validate.
True that. True. Thank you so much.
Thanks.